Hey guys, welcome back. And this session, we're going to be teaching you how to manage your search results, introduction to Prisma framework, and how to use the Covidence software. So remember to engage, like, subscribe, and do share. Let's go.
In the course of this video today, we'll be looking at how to manage your search results and introduction to Prisma and Covidence. Now, don't worry, even if this is your first time of watching this session, the explanation from the Prisma chart and also how the detailed process of using a software like Covidence is really going to make it very simple for you, so that even when you retrace back to the fundamentals, it's just going to be juicy all through. So it's a pleasure to have you guys on this show. Now, it's going to be very important for us to have a glimpse of what our outline is going to look like because of this training today. And we'll start by understanding what is really the Prisma. What do we mean by when we use the word Prisma? What does it really illustrate? Because in the course of you performing your systematic review, the word Prisma, you're going to see it several times, but we really need to know what does it really mean and how does it have any business to do with us. Then we look at some of the tools that we can use in recording our search results. Remember that what we're actually after in this session today, it's so how you can record your search results, and that is what we're actually looking at. So that means it means that the Prisma flow diagram is going to be of interest to us. Then we're also going to look at how your search results in the recording process, because here we are looking at some of the tools, but then we'll now take a look on how you can record the process. Then I'm going to have us on a hands-on beginning practical on how to use Covidence. There's a software known as Covidence. Covidence is actually a very massive tool that we use in research, because the process of conducting a systematic review requires that you use a multidisciplinary, not multidisciplinary now, but a kind of multi-process where for you to minimize bias, it requires multiple reviewers being engaged in a specific research question. And that way you minimize bias on the process of performing your review. Now, we also have the hands-on little practicals on how you can import references into your Covidence. And also, I will now brief us on some of the softwares, other softwares that you can use in managing the search result. Then we have a practical exercise. So that's what we'll be looking at today in GIF. Remember that after we might have talked about search strategy in our previous session, understanding how to manage your search results is a very, very fundamental process of being able to conduct a very decent review. So in a nutshell, we have to answer the question, what is Prisma? So when we mention the word Prisma, what should come to our mind is Prisma means preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So we wouldn't want to look at the origin of Prisma, because if you look at this from your traditional class, many times when a terminology is being introduced, it is very important to understand the history. But what do we need to know? The basic thing we need to understand is that when we mention the word Prisma, what we are actually targeting is that Prisma is a reporting item. For you to start your systematic review, it's very imperative for you to have a reporting item that you would use to document all the elements and process of your systematic review. And that is where the Prisma checklist comes in. So it is just a checklist and a flow diagram that is usually designed to ensure transparency and clarity in the reporting process of your systematic review. So one might ask now, why is the Prisma necessary? The reason is because you can actually imagine doing a systematic. Everybody, what makes it systematic is that there are procedures to follow. So where the Prisma flow chart, or the Prisma checklist comes in, is that it harmonizes the headings that we would use in reporting our systematic review. So first of all, it ensures a clear and replicable process. So that means it means that at the end of performing your systematic review, let's assume you follow the Prisma checklist. So it means that one can actually follow the headings that you've used and come up with the same results. And also, secondly, the Prisma helps to organize the flow of information through the different stages of a review. So with you using the Prisma, it makes your review process have a logical flow, right? You've got from this stage, from your research question to your rationale, down to your search strategy, down to your inclusion and exclusion criteria, down to study selection, down to your quality assessment, down to your synthesis or data extraction and synthesis, and then to your results, discussion, and all that. So this is what the Prisma flowchart provides. It helps to harmonize our systematic review process. As a matter of fact, even if you're listening to this, you're attending this webinar for the very first time, it means that with your Prisma diagram or with your Prisma checklist, you can be able to perform a systematic review by just following all the structured process that is found there. So yeah, this might actually look blah, blah. This is what the Prisma checklist looks like, right? So once you put in you've got, this is the checklist. It contains 27 items. So I'm going to share from my Word. I'm going to start the Prisma checklist, right? So I'm going to project a PDF clearer version of the Prisma checklist, and this is what it looks like. So when you look at the 2020 Prisma checklist, it contains 27 items. So what do we mean by the Prisma checklist containing 27 items? Now, for you to start your review, it needs to have a title. So means that if the reviewer is going to go through your article that you want to publish, the reviewer must ensure that all these items that are in this checklist, the 27 items, you can see it's down to 27 here, right? It must be reflected in your review. And in a situation whereby it doesn't have maybe one particular heading in it, maybe let's say, because this checklist contains both information for a meta-analysis and systematic review, or let's say you're conducting just a systematic review, and there are some certain domains of the checklist that doesn't really reflect, then it means you have to clearly report that. So when you look at the checklist, you have a title, you must have an abstract, you must possess a rationale, an objective, eligibility criteria, information sources, search strategy, process for your selection, data collection, all down to your synthesis, discussion, other information. You need to also understand how to register your protocol, support. All these things are literally important things that needs to be in your systematic review manuscript. So one might actually ask, how about if you're writing a systematic review dissertation? Then in that case, your institution will always provide you with a guideline to follow for your systematic review guideline, for a systematic review dissertation. So what the idea behind the projection of this checklist is that you need to understand that for every systematic review, there needs to be a clear guideline that the researcher or the reviewer will need to adopt in order to lay his or her hands on the judgment of what that particular article contains. So we'll move on. Now we'll move on. What are the tools for recording your search results? Now we also know what we call the Prisma flow diagram, but here it's the Prisma, right? So it's the standard tools that we use in recording and documenting search results, screening for inclusion and exclusion criteria process and all that. So we are definitely going to have our hands on all this. Then we've got other tools like we use in managing our references, like the Ryan, the EndNote, Mendeley, Zotero, RevMan. So we can also use the RevMan Review Manager, right? But it's used specifically for what we call it. So we'll have hands-on on this particular software when we will get to our meta-analysis session and how we can use it. So moving ahead there, the Prisma flow diagram is of massive interest to us because we'll be really using it in our discussion for today. So the Prisma flow diagram contains three primary domains, which is the identification stage, screening stage, and included studies. So it contains, at the identification stage, that is where we usually highlight all the databases that has been searched, and that is usually here at this part of the screen here, where I'm hovering my cursor around, where we need to say, let's assume here in our last class we've learned about databases and we've conducted our search on PubMed, CINAHL, and Embase. That means when we come here, we'll have to highlight that for our PubMed, we've got 10 articles or 200 articles found. For CINAHL equals to 5,000. For Agile, African Journal Online, we've got 100 and all that, right? So the identification component of the Prisma flow diagram, so it solely tries to explain that is where you need to pull down all the databases that you've performed your search on. So another aspect domain there is the deduplication. We're also going to look at this. What do we mean by deduplication is that when you've gotten search terms from diverse databases, it's possible that we might have duplicates, right? Some of the papers in your PubMed can also be found in your Embase, some of them might be found in your Scopus. But in that situation, you need to remove duplicates because you would want to use only one paper, and that is where the duplication plays a role. Then here we usually assume here record screening is divided into two, because when you look at this part of it, it's tied to the screening. So we call here the title and abstract screening, right? So it means here we can screen for what? Wrong title and abstract. So if we've got the wrong title and abstract, we remove them here with the reasons, which is just that. And for eligibility screening is usually where we call the full text screening, where we perform the full text screening, where we get to read the full text of the article. And we now provide specific reasons of why we might be excluding what? Some of those articles. Then remember, this is just the flow chart. So it means that while articles are leaving, we're getting resultant numbers. A couple of numbers leaves here, and we get some numbers for final review. So here we call it the included. So if you'll be performing a systematic review, then it means that a systematic review that wouldn't require a meta-analysis, it means that your box is going to end at studies included in the review. You wouldn't have this part, right? So, but if it's going to be leading to a meta-analysis, then that means it's possible for you to have 10 studies included in your synthesis, but only 9 are eligible for meta-analysis. We'll get to it. You don't have to worry. We'll get to explain that in details when we'll be looking at meta-analysis of interventions. So another beautiful aspect of it is here when we look at the search results recording process. So how do we record? So technically, I've just said that in my last slide. So some of the steps we need to follow here is we need to document all the databases that we've searched. So we ensure that the details of each search are accurately recorded. Then we also have to track all the records, keep track of the number of articles that are found and duplicates removed. Then we need to perform our screening based on our inclusion and exclusion criteria, which we need to provide, right? And then we now need to do what? We need to show transparency by making sure that all decisions regarding our exclusion and inclusion criteria are clearly documented. So that's it for them. So on this course, I'm going to be explaining the Covidence software before I get into a snapshot practical of how we can actually use Covidence in performing our site. But then I wouldn't really go much into details because of the scope of this training. I'm just going to be only explaining how we can import our studies from our normal data into Covidence. I'm going to try to create an account using Covidence. Now, I would say that Covidence is a very large web-based tool, unlike that's actually really designed to streamline your systematic review process. So it's a web-based tool that allows researchers to import search results. It lets us to screen records and collaborate with other people on systematic reviews. Remember that I did highlight when we started this session that what makes a systematic review immune to bias is that you have multiple collaborators or multiple reviewers or multiple academics working on a particular topic. Because when you are the only one, just imagine it, look at it from this angle. Let's assume you're the only one working on your review, only you reviews the title, only you review the abstract, only you reviews everything. Then that means everything is just really based on your own judgment. And in that scenario, what it means is that it is just going to be what? Decisions based by you. So that means if there is any bias or if there's any wrong decision that you're making, then that means you wouldn't be seeing it from another person's end. So it's just like having a case, going to the court, maybe somebody has committed a crime, then it's not just the judge that is going to say, we've got barristers, we've got lawyers, we've got other people who have to ascertain the case, have a view of it from several views or from several angles before judgment is passed. So that is just what we are trying to talk about. So what we're talking about is that in this scenario, Covidence lets us to collaborate in our research process. It makes it very easy for you to perform what? A systematic research. Talking about another type of tool which we know as the Ryan is also similar to this, but it's not going to be complete for us to talk about how to perform a systematic review without highlighting a very phenomenal tool like Covidence. So what are the key components there? With respect to this lecture here, we'll be talking about how to import research results, easy import from databases like PubMed, Scopus, and others. Then maybe how to screen along the line, maybe in our later videos, how to perform the screening, records, and also apply your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then how to collaborate. Multiple reviewers can screen and resolve conflicts. In a situation whereby you disagree that this should be excluded and the other person doesn't disagree, then what should happen? Then that means there needs to be a resolution of maybe a conflict. And also how to perform your data extraction, some of the automated processes to help with your data extraction and synthesis. So we'll be getting started using the Covidence software for beginners. So our very first step is going to be to create an account, set up, any systematic review project that I'm going to choose, because already in my last session, I already said that I was interested in, I think, teenage pregnancy in Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. I'm going to use that question as my systematic review topic when I'm going to set up my Covidence. And also, I'm going to explain how we can import search, which is going to be the step 2, from different databases, and a snapshot rundown on how we can perform our screening by including or excluding studies based on the predefined criteria. Remember, we haven't really said anything about inclusion and exclusion criteria, so I won't really be going so deep on that. I'm going to be talking about how we can resolve conflicts and discrepancies among reviewers. Then maybe snapshot how we can extract data and prepare for analysis. So some of the key features that we will find in this very marvelous software known as the Covidence is that it helps in tracking decisions. So it allows us to track every decision that is being made during the screening and extractions. Also, it has its own custom forms, right? So on the course of using Covidence, there are certain things we refer to as our data extraction forms. And I'm going to show us how we can modify the forms, because definitely we'll have several research questions that might not really suit with the default forms that comes from the software. Then I'm going to really make it very simple on how we can actually customize our forms for screening and maybe our data extraction, and also how we can resolve conflicts. Covidence has that particular feature that helps us to resolve conflict and address this during our review process. So yeah, this is actually a very beautiful baby here that is very happy with us. So she's smiling because she knows what's ahead for us. So we're going to look at some of the other softwares for managing. So some of the other softwares for managing your search results are like Ryan, very massive software there. So it speeds up the screening process using AI-powered suggestions. So you can actually try out Ryan, and maybe subsequently I might put it up, because some of these softwares are premium, and it means that for you to use them fluently, you have to pay. and I don't like to pay for things. I don't really like to pay. And also, RevMan, specifically for Cochrane reviews, offering features for analysis and review management. So also some of the data management softwares, I'm going to also have a look on Zotero, how you can export references to Zotero. Remember that what we are discussing today is solely how you can manage your references. That is what we are really talking about. Don't get locked out. We are talking about how you can manage your search results and introduction to what? Prisma and Covidence. So we will also have a look on how you can use Zotero to manage the reference. So let's get started immediately. So to start my Covidence, I'm going to come here. I'm going to search Covidence. And search Covidence. Okay, so let me search properly this time. Right, so you can click on it. Good. Now, remember that Covidence, it's a very massive tool that is very fast that we use in performing our systematic reviews. And I'm going to go straight into using the free trial version. That's what I'm going to use. I've already got an account, but I'm going to try to log in using the free trial version. So at the end of this, I suggest that we all create an account with Covidence. But then the good news is that if you're from a low and middle income country, there are some conditions that you will need to meet where Covidence is going to let you use the free version. Sorry, the premium version. So signing up with Covidence is very simple. So I click on the free trial. So it brings me here. So sign up. So if I want to sign up, I already have an account. But then how do I sign up? I could come here and I could search David. Right? So I could say, maybe, let me use Sydney. Then I could use Sydney Institute. Okay, let me try and quickly retrieve that. Come here, over here. Click on that. Okay, good. So I could put any password that I'm interested in. Okay, so I'm a researcher. I'll click on that. So all these are optional. You can decide to fill it, but I'm not interested in that. So I could agree. Maybe I'm not interested in this, then I'll click on the robot. Okay, so I'll create account. Okay, so it's saying that email is already in use. Okay, so I'm going to use, because I already use this email to back up my other mail. So what I could do then is I'll have to log in to my account. I'll click on sign in. So this is my account. I've signed in now, right? Good. So now let's assume now that I want to start a new review. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click here, start the review. Then when I've clicked on start a review, so if you're just logging in for the first time, you wouldn't see anything here, right? You will see, if you're logging in immediately you log in, let's say you're done creating your account, you're going to see something here which will require you to verify your email. So I'm not going to click on that, but because I don't have that, because I've already verified it. So my name of review, I could choose teenage pregnancy in sub-Saharan Africa. So right? So that's the choice of my review. Then I'm going to click systematic review. That's what I'm interested in. Then also, I'm going to select question type. Maybe I could choose medical, whichever one I'm interested in. Maybe I could choose, I could choose, no, I'm not going to choose that. I could go for whatever. Let me choose this. Then I'll choose medical and that, right? Now, so I'm not interested in this. So now, also, we need to understand that using Covidence, right? If you're using an RCT, you might want to, hover around this. But remove references, reporting, and all that, you can select that, and I can click on create review. Now, before we start, one thing we need to understand is that some of the limitations of the free version is that the free version doesn't really give you access. It has some limitations, and that includes you can only include a maximum of 2 reviewers. You cannot include more than 500 references. You see, I just logged in now, so it's trying to show me some of the features and all that I really need to know. And I'm also going to explain this in details, because in the next session I'm going to have another review, 2 reviewers invited, where I'm going to do more demonstration. But now for the interface here, I'm just going to explain this. Now it also lets us, it doesn't let us include more than 500 records. Covidence doesn't let us include more than 500 records. So if I want to invite any review, I could click here, I could enter the name, let's say Innocent Ibrahim at Gmail, right? I could send them on. Okay, sorry, I put that on the wrong place. So I could say right? So I've sent an invitation to this participant. So what it means is that once you want to conduct, why do we need Covidence? So if you want to conduct your systematic review, and you want, remember, we're entering into the data extraction process, screening and all that, screening, checking for title and abstract, doing our full text eligibility screening. Now it means that you wouldn't want to do that alone. So this is where you have to invite the reviewer. So once you invite the other person, it means he or she is going to receive that invitation. And if they have an account with Covidence, upon clicking it, it will appear on theirs. But if they don't, upon clicking it, then they will have to just quickly create one and have the access to review the studies that are going to import. Now, when we come to the review settings here, so this is where we can actually input all those terms. We can actually edit some of the things that we want to edit. We can put our SaaS strategy here. We can put our, if there are other information that we need to put about the review, we can, it's just 2 reviewers that are required. And we've got, reviewers for full text. We can actually make those decisions here. If we want to set only reviewers that are going to screen the studies to be 1, or maybe if it's going to be 2, another can literally technically do all that here. Same thing applies for the data extraction. And also, another thing we need to understand is that based on this part of or based on this interface where I'm hovering around my cursor, we need to know that Cochrane and Covidence, who are actually who are the people behind this software, as that you can actually use a data extraction tool that is already provided by them, or you can use there's a data extraction tool that is recommended by Cochrane, which is already by default there, or you can actually use for the second one. So these things are the layout of this particular software is well self-explanatory and detailed, such that you can actually change, manage the control and usage of it, right? So you can hover around the team settings, right? So here, when you come to the team settings, this is where we are going to actually have a snapshot review, right? So here you've got the title and abstract screening, you've got the full text, you've got the extraction, right? So if I like here now, you see, I've just got some limitations. I can actually include just 500 records. So when you come to the eligibility criteria, so this is where you have to add your what, your inclusion and exclusion criteria. You can put your inclusion criteria. You can put the criteria for exclusion based on your population, depending on your framework. But if you choose to edit this to how you want it to suit it, you can equally what, edit it. So you can actually also go to study tags, which is where we can actually do what, manage some of our what, citations. So we're also going to have a more detailed look at this when we move around for our screening process. Now here is the what, where you can manage the rules. So let's assume that I've actually imputed another reviewer who might have accepted it. Right. So at this stage, you find out that he or she, her name is going to be. So I can decide to say, okay, based on the screening, it's only going to be performed by this. Now let's imagine if we were using we're using a free trial version here. We've got like 10 reviewers here. So it means that when it comes to the screening, we can actually decide who is going to, maybe who is going to screen, right? And in terms, if there are conflicts, we can also manage who is going to do. But only my name is showing here because I'm just the only person here. So we're going to try. So we're going to try to. All right. So we're going to try to. I'm going to try to see if we can. Okay, cool. Let's see if it created this as a link. Okay, cool. So I'm going to open that. So I'm going to accept the invitation. Accept. So I'm going to click on the ongoing review, right? Cool. Now, okay, cool. Now, remember the essence of the idea behind this class. And now this is me, David Innocent, and this is Sentisini. So now, what am I going to do? Now, I'm going to teach us how we can now import references into Covidence when we must have performed our search strategy. Remember that in our previous session, we did explain how to perform our search strategy. So I'm just going to have a touch on that again, right? So good. I'm going to use this as our what? Document. I'm going to call it document for refresher. Okay, cool. So remember, we're interested in the question teenage pregnancy in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Good. Cool. So, and we said factors. So we titled determinants. So I'm going to increase that. So it's going to make a lot more sense. Okay, cool. So I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to set up my table. So we'll just have a quick rush on how to perform our mesh terms. So it's a teenage pregnancy, right? We've got teenagers. So these are some of the terms. So we want to do a quick search. I want to combine it with pregnancy, and we have sub-Sahara. Okay, cool. And we have determinants. So what do we do? Remember, we have to create our mesh. So we create our first table immediately, which is going to be this. Come to insert, you hover around here, create two tables. So you call these the what? Keywords. You call this the what? The what? Entry terms, right? So you're going to put your what? Teenagers here. And you're going to put what? Pregnancy. And you're going to put what? Okay. So we're going to combine it with what we call our tie-up terms. So we also have another heading here. So I'll just copy this table. I'm gonna paste it here. I'm gonna call this the what? Tie-up terms. Okay, cool. Now remember, I just want to have a refreshing on what I've done in my previous video. But if you want to have a full details about this, you can actually go up to one last video. So I'm going to come here. Remember, I'll come to PubMed. I'm going to hover this here. I'm going to search PubMed immediately. Cool. I'm going to come down, come to mesh database, click there. Okay, cool. Now, what do? We want to provide our mesh terms. So I input teenagers and I do what? Search. I'm not searching for studies. I'm searching for what? Mesh terms. Okay, so adolescent is the mesh term for teenagers and not teenagers. So I'm going to add it to my search builder. I'm going to copy that. Come here quickly. And I'll put that, right? Then I will take the next term, pregnancy. So I'll put pregnancy and hit. Now, remember to clear this out. Cool. Now, we have several mesh terms for pregnancy. So it means that we're going to now join them with what? Combine them with what? The or Boolean operator. So I have to come here, I'll select this. Maybe I'll read the definition. Once you've seen this mesh term, you read the definition to be sure if it's something that satisfies what you're interested in. Maybe I'm interested in this, and go down. Maybe this as well, and this, right? Maybe any other thing, and I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with this. I'm going to put add to search builder, right? So I'm going to copy that, to come here, and paste it. Clear? Cool. So I move to the next part. Remember, follow. I'll take this, I'll pick this, and I'm going to put it here. I will search. I searched, and I'm going to remove this, clear this. I'll just click here because that's the only option here anyway. So I'm going to just copy this. And that's it. Now I could copy this if I want to use them for my free text terms. I'm interested in using this to my free text term, but for the sake of this video, we just want to do a quick hit search, right? So refresh now again on our this, so I could add for my tie-up terms. Put it there, change this to tab, then all team star block tie-up. Remember, this is what we call this the what? Proximity. We already explained it in our last video. So I'm going to just pick this. right? So I'm going to change this to tab, and I'm going to come here. So I could, these are tab slash free text terms. Tab means title and abstract, right? Cool. So I could come here and put sub-Saharan Africa, right? Remember to put your words, colon, tab, or maybe Nigeria, or so Nigeria, any Nigeria appearing in our tab, in our title or abstract. So we could put Ghana tab. So now the next stage is to what? Is to formulate our full search. Cool. Cool. So that means we will now have to combine our primary keywords with our this. So I'm just going to come here quickly, hover around here, I'll put this. But then instead of doing that, I could rather create another table quickly. So I could actually pick up all my terms here. So when I come from, I'm going to put, I have to add another column to that. I'm going to explain why. So this will be the indexing serial number. So we're going to call this hash. Hash1, I was looking for hash on my keyboard. So we'll call it hash2, we'll call this hash3, we'll call this maybe hash4, depending on the number of keywords you've got, right? So we could bring in determinants somewhere, right? Because we understand determinants to be determinants type tab, but we check on thesaurus if we can find determinants, select them. Okay, maybe cool. Let's put this. Let's put that. Okay. So we have to add it to our search build-up. Because some of the social determinants of health can actually impede on teenage pregnancy, such as where they grew up, where they live, where they work, their age, maybe older teenagers or maybe younger teenagers, maybe where they're placed. So you know all that, their social policies, politics, all these things can shape a wide range of the forces. So this is a very massive keyword for us to put inside of there. So we'll put it inside of it, and we'll come here, we'll put determinants. I can do with just my mesh terms also without needing my free text terms. What I mean by that is I could hash up all this, but then since I want to have a very comprehensive search, just demonstrate once more how we can include tie-up terms, what we call the tie-up terms, which is the what free text terms slash free or synonyms or title abstract. Q. So what's up? We've got our teenagers here. These are primary. What I call our primary keywords. Remember, this is how you record your search strategy. Primary keywords. You have to put in your okay, cool. Okay. So we move up. So we're going to call this pregnancy. All right, so we'll put it inside of here. We'll go up and pick up this Remember, it's all dependent on your what? So we separate with the OR operator. Remember that when we explain that the OR operator is used to explain terms from different. Okay, so let me start with this. So put the OR already. I think we didn't copy that. Okay. Come down and I'll put this inside of it. I'll go up. Then we look at this pregnancy tab. I'll just put that there. Remember, tab means title option, so I'm going to put this here. Make sure there is no more spacing on terminals or okay, yeah, we've got that already. Okay, cool. So we come down. So we can also add other words like factors or maybe influences. Remember, you must put your tab on. Cool. So you can add your maybe there's any other term that you're interested in. And remember that we also look at other articles, what has been previously done, right? So it's not just about hitting it. You can also apply white cards. You can apply white cards as well in it. Okay. So here we'll put this, we'll copy this. So we can copy this, right? That's our. So we come here, we click on advanced. Cool. So when we click on advanced, so I'm going to clear history here. I'm trying to check to be sure. We don't have any. Okay, no, not here. Cool, yes. So we are at the right place. So I'm going to come here, I'll enter my search query, check it to be sure something is not missing. I think something was missing here already. But before I hit that, I'm going to cross check just for a minute. Already, I find our search terms. So to just have a hovering look at what we've done to be sure we don't have any wrong results. And I'm going to add to history. So that's what we do. You add it to what? History. That's for H1. So we move to the next part. We come to the second spelling variant, which is 2. right? So we click Control C. That was what I did. And I'll come back here. We're trying to build our search before we can. So we come back, check to be sure nothing is wrong, everything well added. So we add to history. Okay, that's fine, right? That's our second search. Now, depending on the databases where you're hitting all this, you can be recording it here, right? Search results after this. Maybe let's say, for example, you had a table like this. This is what I mean. Insert to the right. I had a table like this. And you got this PubMed. And you have the Scopus, right? So you have to be recording all the what. I just hope I was trying to make myself clear. So this can come up here. That's the point. So I'll take that out. So we move to the third. So I copy this. You have to be very careful. Make sure that everything is hanging. And you hit it here. Check. So I can try to add maybe, or since it's sort of Kenya, you can just copy it from that mesh terms and put all of them as your what? As a title. Remember, I used what? The block, not curly braces. So I could do what? Check it well and add to history. So I've added that. So I go to the next. This. So I copy this. So check it out. Be sure it's correct. Enough Boolean terms. Everything is banging. I hit it and I add. Now, good. Now, when you return back to your search strategy, you see that we've got to have hash 5. So hash 5 is going to be hash 1 and hash 2 and hash 3 and hash 4, right? So I could just merge this together, right? For more unity and union. Okay, so now what do we do? So when I come to the cursor here, so what I'm going to do, because we're moving to the next stage, so I'm going to click hash 1. Immediately, you see this thing changes to and. Initially it was at all, but it understands that I want to join and. Now remember what I want to join now is, now let me explain. What we want to do now is, we want to now make sure that we find this inside of this, inside of this, inside of this, inside of this. There is already a filter here applied. This is a filter applied, but I wouldn't want to start changing it now because of our time already. It has already been applied. So I can just clear it, but if I clear it, it will still remain here. So but we can still work with that. Still fine. So hash 2 and hash 3 and hash 4. You have to spell it properly or else it won't work. So we'll put what? Add to history. So that means our search strategy yielded from PubMed 100 and what? 30 studies. So when we come to the Prisma, so I could just quickly open a Prisma over here and open a Prisma flow diagram. Cool. Fine. So when I come to the Prisma diagram, remember what I explained earlier. So for the basis of this session, I'm explaining only with the PubMed. I'll say PubMed records identified is what? 130. Before I go out, I move to the next one, which could be actually Scopus, which could be CINAHL, which could be Web of Science, Agile, and all that. Depending on how you perform your search strategy, that could actually be Google Scholar or whatever, right? That is appropriate for you. Okay, cool. So this is how the Prisma flow diagram works. So I've performed the first part of it. So we're assuming that everything we've done now is PubMed, where our total is equals to 130. Now, what do I do now? So the next thing I do now is to export this. But now, to view this reference, I have to click on it. right? So you've seen it. Remember, we're talking about teenage pregnancy. So these are the papers that we are what that we are getting. So how can we now be able to screen all these papers? Now we return back to where? To Covidence. So it assumes that both the researcher and the other participant, that's the assistant, whoever is collaborating here, for you to screen those papers, there are several ways. Some people might decide to move it into Excel or move it into whatever database around that, right? So, but how do we, well, maybe then move it into Excel, which I explained in our last video, then check it, right? But for the sake of this video, we're looking at Covidence. Now we're going to click on what? Import. But before we click on that, we need to sort ourselves out to make sure all these references are recorded and saved. Now, how do we save it? We click on Save. Now, I could use only all the results on this page, right? But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to show how we can move all the 130 references. So I'll click on all the results. Now, Covidence only accepts the references in PubMed format. So when you click here, you would use what? PubMed. But if we are to save from, let's say, a database like Google Scholar, right? And let's say I come inside here and I click teenage pregnancy. Okay, cool. It's asking me to show if I'm a robot. Okay, cool. Let's enjoy that because I like enjoying this. Some other people might want to take it out, but I'm not sure that I'm a robot. Actually, I'm not a robot. Okay, cool. So if you want to save here, right? If you want to save the references, can save as maybe you put any name and say teenage pregnancy, right? So when we'll be exporting all these references, let me just save up like 3 so that let me try and save time before we finish with that. I'm assuming that this is what my search strategy yielded. Okay, no, sorry, was a mistake. Let me put teenage pregnancy. So let me see if I can get some similar references that would show as duplicates. Okay, cool. I'm still saving. All right, so cool. Right, I think we're done with that. Now, why did I jump into this Google Scholar? The reason why I came here is just to show us the differences. Now, if you're saving your references in PubMed, right, you have to save it in what? PubMed format. So when you save it in PubMed format, that's from your search strategy because you wouldn't have all the time to start reading all these 130 papers. So you click on Create File. So immediately it has been downloaded. And that is the only way Zotero is going to do what? Accept it. Now, how about if I'm saving papers now from PubMed, from Google Scholar, which is another database, right? So I'm done saving. So you go to my library, click on my library, click on teenage pregnancy, click on export all. Now you export as refman. So you click on it. So you click on it. So you click on exporting it as what? Refman, which is very, very what? Paramount. Okay, so now I believe I've done that. So I'm going to check my downloaded folders to see if that is okay. I haven't. I'm a bit distracted, but I will click on this. Export all refman, all articles on this with this label. So this is it. As refman. So now good. So when we now come into Covidence now, right? So we click on import. Now it brings us here, right? So now by default, once you're starting, you're importing to screen, right? Okay, good. You're importing to do what screen? You're not importing to do all this, right? So you select the source, PubMed. Remember when I select the source here, you can see Google Scholar, you can see all the databases like Scopus, Web of Science, WHO and others. So I will select PubMed, right? Okay. So I'm going to browse. So I'm going to go to my download folder. I'm going to, this is it. So I'm going to click on it. Right? Cool. I'm going to import. So wait for some minute. Okay, cool. So it has been imported, right? So when I look at it from this end too, so I go to team settings and automatically it has been updated 130 references. Okay. All right. So what next? What next could I do? So if I want to stay import references before I start my screening, I could also click on import again, right? So select source, Google Scholar, browse. Okay, cool. So check out this, export to be sure we're the safer side. So try to bring in that. So I got that. Okay, cool. So no duplicates found. Now, this is the interface here for us to start our what? Our screening, right? Now, remember when I click on team settings, it can let me basically navigate for anything I want to do. So what do we do next? Now, I can click on continue, right? Now, all the papers are now available for me here. Is that clear? So this is where so this is where I can now start. So that is where we can start our screening. But the essence of this session is to guide us on how to perform our what? Our importing. So if I want to screen for these papers now, the inclusion criteria can be added here, right? If I'm interested in that. So I've got the inclusion and exclusion criteria, but I will still go back to my team settings. Go back to my title and abstract screening quickly. I'm going to just hover on there. Okay, cool. So let me. Okay. Okay, yeah, cool. So this is what I was talking about, right? Yeah, because I'm basically using one account to manage this. So, but most times if you want to start with your review, you have to say, okay, yeah, everybody can actually do anything in this screening process and all that. So We've got us to upgrade, so study tags, just inside of here. So that is just basically everything we need to know for screening, for our imported to on how we could actually import our references. So if you want to continue, you can actually continue here, right? So this is the first reference. Now, the idea is that you have your inclusion and exclusion criteria right here. So all you need to do is when you read this paper, you check it. Does it really, based on title and abstract, does it really match with teenage pregnancy and all that? You say no. The next paper pops up. Does it really match? You look at it, you have a clear look at the abstract, and it doesn't, and it does. You say no. But let's assume maybe I look at this now and I say maybe. Another one comes and say maybe. Another one comes and say yes. Maybe it does yes. 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 So it will require us to go through all those processes, right? So if the next reviewer is looking at it, because yes, technically me, that's my second email I used in backing it up. So, and the second reviewer goes through the papers. So they can be able to make the judgments on it. So I could say no, maybe. So this is just the tip of the iceberg on what your study screening looks like. I know it looks very beautiful and you can't wait to get started with this because it looks literally very simple and interesting. And it's just all about having two reviewers. Remember that the reason why we face some limitations is because we're using a paid account, we're using a trial account, but if we're using a premium account, it's just going to be very, very easy for you. And trust me, this is just what you really need for your session. So it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you once more. I've got some exercises, and the exercise is to get your hands on downloading the Covidence app so you could start your tutorial and practice. Remember, practice makes literally you perfect. And so I've got some examples, exercises to share. For you to understand the Prisma, you need to do this and have a more clear look at it, and also try to install your Covidence. So I'm just going to have a rundown again of everything I talked about. I did talk about managing search results and introduction to Prisma and Covidence. We just had a very snapshot introduction, and I talked about what's Prisma, because Prisma happens to be a very massive checklist that we use in doing our systematically. And also some of the tools used for recording our search results to explain Prisma flow diagram, search results, recording process, introduction to Covidence, Covidence for beginners, other softwares and exercises. Prisma means preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis, and it's a checklist that is designed to show massive transparency in our reporting process. It's just very important for us to use the Prisma checklist because of the clarity that it provides, and it contains 27 items inside of it. So we look at some of the components of the Prisma flow diagram, which is very instrumental. We've got the identification stage, we've got the screening stage, eligibility, and included studies, right? Good. So we record our reasons. So, but if you're using the Covidence software, by default, everything will be recording itself here. And so we'll still have hands-on on it, doing our data extraction, how we can extract data very massively. And also some of the steps were all well detailed and explained. And we had an introduction to Covidence, how to register. So you have to try and register, start using Covidence today. And Covidence for beginners, we explained that some of the steps is just to create your account, import your search results from different databases, begin by screening, which I just performed, resolve conflicts and discrepancies and extract data. And I thought about some of the key features that we have there is that it helps us in making decisions. We can customize forms and resolve conflicts. So Other softwares are Ryan, which is similar to Covidence. We've got Revman, EndNote, and Mendeley, right? Using managing our references. So it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you. And on to our very next meeting, when we'll be looking at inclusion criteria, study screening, and the duplication. Thank you very much.